Hello, Auburn Hills Public Library patrons. This is Lindsay from the adult section, and I'm here today to show you a tutorial on how to make some paper roses. And these are roses that I have used for a bunch of different occasions, actually. I made them for a wedding once, and I've made them for a baby shower. So I have some leftover cardstock here. Figured I would show you guys how to do this. For Mother's Day, given that the last time I was at the store, there really wasn't a huge stock of paper flowers available. So in this way, instead, you can make your own if you want to make something for the mothers in your life. And these are really easy. I make these out of cardstock. You probably could make them out of printer paper. I wouldn't suggest it though, just given how thin the paper is. I actually have some right here. My biggest concern is that this wouldn't structurally be as sound as the other ones. And additionally, we're using hot glue, and I don't want you to burn yourself through the paper from all the glue and or the tip of the hot glue gun, which can get quite hot and can burn you. So I'll show you how to do that. Let's get started. You will need for one rose, one 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper. And again, I use cardstock. So if you want to go to Joann's, do curbside pickup, I would suggest doing that and getting maybe a variety of colors like I've done here. Or you could just get one color if you'd like. But what you will need is as many sheets of paper as you will want to make roses, because it's one rose per sheet of paper, as said. You will also need a pair of scissors in order to cut those sheets of paper into quarters. And then you will also need something to curl the petals with. I like using my Sharpie just because it's no hard edges on it. It's completely round, and I think it creates some nice soft curls. You can also use your scissors if you'd like to get something that's a little bit sharper of a curl. If you're comfortable with that, go for it, but again, please be careful. Other than that, we've got our hot glue gun ready to go over here. You'll need that to affix the different layers to each other and to curl the petals in on each other so that you're actually forming the flower itself. So other than that, you will need a template. Each layer will be the exact same shape and size. It will be this 5-petaled flower look. I have made this template out of cardstock so that it's a little thicker, a little easier to trace around. So once you've had your sheet of paper and you've got them into quarters, again, there's 4 sheets of paper here. This is just printer paper to have an example of what the sizes look like. So once you're quartered, take your template and then lay it on your sheets of paper. Again, try to line these up as best as you possibly can. And then at that point, take your pencil and then trace around each petal so that your template is then transferred onto your paper. If you're doing a thinner cardstock or have decided to do this out of printer paper, you can probably cut all 4 in one go. If you want to do that, go for it. If your scissors are up to it. This cardstock that I'm using is a little bit thicker, so when I cut them out, I usually split them into 2 sheets and then transfer the template and trace it onto each of those 2 sheets and then cut them 2 at a time instead, just because my scissors can't hold up to cutting all 4 at once. So once you have done this step, you will have 4 sheets of flowers. Let me get this last one taken apart. As you can see, the cardstock I'm using today is actually mildly textured on one side, so I'm going to try to hide that as best as possible. Unfortunately, that's what I could get given the circumstances, but we will show you how to do this. So again, 4 layers. I'm going to use the rough side on that, and then I want the thin side or the smooth side on the others. So here are 4. If you want to tweak how they look, and like if you've got a rough edge somewhere, go for it. There's a lot of occasions, unless it really looks bad, I don't even trim the edges up just because you don't really even notice them. Once the flower is all put together, it looks just fine on its own. All right, so let's grab your first one. And again, since I've unfortunately got the textured paper, I'm going to want the textured side on the inside for this. The first layer, let me grab one of my little buds over here. Oh, come here. Is going to be a twisted in cone, essentially. It's this piece right here. There's a second layer on the outside. So we're going to try to create that. And grab whatever you're using to curl the petals. So I'm going to use my Sharpie. And then again, for me, I'm going to be putting the textured side up. So let's just curl those in. And in a lot of cases, I want to kind of like taco it around the Sharpie so that you're getting a nice cup, essentially, right there. So let's repeat that for each of the petals. And this is just to help you shape your petals so it's easier to maneuver once you get to the point of actually forming that center cone. Okay, so I've done all 5. Again, it doesn't have to be super tight. This is just to help you. Okay, so I'm going to start taking these. I want to fold them on top of each other, or rather like stack them on top of each other. So always do one end over the other, and then kind of take your fingers and pinch them just to hold that in place so that you're not losing all your work. So I'm just gonna, again, fold that right in there, just like that. And then keep doing that. And then by the time you get to the last one, it's gonna get a little bit tight. I'm going to take this and then just curl that in so that we've got a nice little cup here. And then start working that closed. I usually just curl it in a little bit, just kind of push on it, and at a certain point, they'll just start sliding against each other. And I don't want this too tight, so I think I'm going to stop there. And then if you want to, just slowly move your fingers around. You should be able to hold it with one hand and just pinch it closed. And don't worry about the opening. If it doesn't look the way you want it right now, you will be able to essentially edit that by the time we get to the end. Right now, we're just trying to start attaching it to itself so that we've got a base. So again, I've got 2 fingers down here to support the base. I've got 2 fingers on the opposite end to try to keep all of our work spiraled closed. And I've got 1 petal open. And we're just going to put a dab of glue right in the center there. Okay, and I've got just a little bit ready to go, but let me add a little more. It may have been too much. We will find out. Okay, and then just gently roll that closed. And again, be careful if you did put too much glue in, it could seep out the end of that seam and then get on your fingers, and you don't want that. So thankfully, I just kind of just made that. Thankfully, yep, we're looking pretty good. And then I'm just going to turn it a little bit and then open up the next petal. And again, you don't want to like completely let it go. You don't want to lose everything you've done, but we'll just do the one. Okay, I've got my glue in there. We'll just roll that closed. I'll just hold that for just a second while it's done. Okay, so we've gotten 2 done. And then at each layer, I'm just going to kind of like push that center piece in a little bit just to keep it a little tight. So I am letting it go just a little bit, and then let's just do a drip. A little bit, and then roll that closed. I'll hold it for a second. Okay, it should be fine. So right now I've got 2 petals left. At this point, you can kind of start letting it go a little bit. If you want to try to make it tighter, this is definitely the time to do it. So really, if you want to make that tighter, push in right here so that you can curl that in and make, really make that twist in. So, but I'm pretty happy with it, so I'm not going to push it too much. And then roll that closed. Okay. Last one. At that point, it'll hold its shape pretty well, so you don't need to worry about keeping a hand on it too much. Cool. Okay, there we go. That's our first layer. That is the beginning of our bud. So it's very, very cone shaped. You can see all that. We'll get the next one ready to go. So I'm going to put that down for a second. Similar to the last one, I want my textured side in. I do not want to see that. And we are going to roll it the same way we did the first one, where I'm just kind of, trying to cup it around like that. And what I'm going to be doing is, if you can see those buds at the top, I'm just going to be taking these edges, folding them up, and just kind of like pinching either side. I want the outer edges to touch that center piece but I want to start creating a little bit of space so it looks like the flower is opening. Actually, I think I've done all 5. Yep, there we go. So you can either put a dab of glue in the center here, or you can put it on your base and then attach it to the next layer. So I'm going to do it this way. Actually get that in the shot. There you go. And our base, and just center that as much as you possibly can. And again, if it's not perfect, it's not perfect. That just means all your roses will look a little bit different, and honestly, that'll add some more appeal. I think it'll look a little bit more natural personally. Okay, so for doing the petals, I'm going to put a dab here and a dab here, and then just pull that up and pinch it against the bud. Okay, there we go. And then just take that up and pinch it. And you're going to want to figure out how far away you're going to want that from the center of it. It just depends on how much space you want to create and how quickly you want to create that. So my first one, I'm going to keep it pretty close. Now from here, if you want to, you can spiral your way around the petals and attach them, you know, next like that. Especially for this step, I like usually going across a little bit, or doing like this one and then the one across, which I think I'm going to be doing with this one. Just depends on what kind of look you want to create. But I find the spiral, like everything to be spiraled, to look a little fake. So I like to vary it a bit just to give it a little bit more of a natural feel. But having a little bit of spiral like that does look really nice. It's very pretty. So I'm going to just hold that until it dries. Okay, so in this case, I think I am going to go across. Just grab your glue gun, again, a little bit. If you're having a little bit extra on the tip, just rub it down at the base so you're not creating too many of those tendrils, and then just, oops, sorry about that, and then just put that on there. And just hold it until you're done. And then you will create a lot of those little silk hairs that come out of the glue. Again, just each layer, I would suggest just cleaning those up, making sure that they're not in your way and not getting caught to anything. And then from here, it doesn't really matter which one we choose next. So we'll just do that, dab by dab. I'm just going to clean that up on the edge. And then just put that right in there. And again, just be careful not to push so hard that the glue is seeping all over the place and coming up on your fingers. Don't want you to burn yourself. Okay, I'll do the last one. All right. And if you were so inclined, you could stop after this layer. Doing so kind of creates the 2 buds that I have up at the top. And if you just want something to fill some space, honestly, these are a great way to do that, just because they're very tiny. They really fill in the holes quite nicely if you want to try to make an arrangement. And the base is small enough that if you want to try to stick a dowel on the bottom, you could definitely create a flower out of this. So that's that. That is our second layer. So starting with the third layer, we're going to start curling the petals a little bit differently. I want them to curl out a little more, so for me the textured side is down. Let's just grab our Sharpie again. And I'm going to take the tips and curl them out just a little bit. I don't need too much right now. I don't want my third layer to be super open. I want to just, again, start creating a little bit more space, but the fourth layer is where you're really going to create a lot of these showy petals, as you can kind of see over here on like this white one. Okay, so we've got all of our 5, and again, these are just curled out just a little bit. And I'll put that down for 2 seconds. Okay. And just a little bit of glue on the bottom. And then, oh, there goes my glue gun. And just, again, center that as best as you can on the petal. If you put a decent amount of glue on, like it'll shift around, you can kind of play with it before it starts to cool. Just put that there, let it cool for just a second. All right, let's get on to the next step. So with this one, especially because you're going to start seeing the openings of the petals a little bit better. You're going to want to put all of your glue down at the base of the petal, and usually I do just like as small of a U as I possibly can. With this one, I'm going to be folding them up and then kind of pinching them a little bit while still trying to maintain that curl. I really want them kind of close to the body of the rest of the flower. All right, so it's not always turns out to be you, sometimes it's just a line. That's okay, as long as it gets the job done, right? So I'm actually gonna put a finger in the middle here just to kind of like force that open, or at least I was trying to. Whoops, sorry about that. And we'll just hold that there for a minute. I was gonna try to pinch that at the bottom a little bit better, but I can't get my finger in there right now. Let's really try to do that. So we're just gonna hold that one for a second, because ideally what I wanted to do was push this closed so that it forced it a little bit more open and but was still curling, but got the sides close to the body. But that's okay. Sometimes it doesn't always work out the way planned. Okay, so if you want to, you can spiral your way around the flower if you just want to do the next one in line. But I think I'm going to continue with my across method to try to get some really close ones, and then like this one will be a little bit further open. So I'm going to do this one. Okay, again, just kind of a bit of a U, and then put that in, and just pinch that close. There we go, that's what I wanted to do. I will show you how I'm holding this once this dries. Ideally, at this point, what you want is to have at least your thumb and then a couple of your fingers on the bottom. The center column from the first layer that you made is actually quite strong, so you should be able to hold the top and the bottom together without crumpling the edges at all. And then with the other hand, I'm just trying to use a finger to try to keep that curl open a little bit. And then I wanted to pinch this down so you get this kind of effect there, because then it just pushes that open a little bit, but you're pretty close along the bottom. All right, so let's do our next one. And then I think I'm just gonna go to the next one in line. It's a little bit more of a pronounced U. Okay, and then just push this in as best you can. Because that other petal is in the way, I'm just using my finger just to kind of push that in, and then I'll probably curl this open a little bit more so it gets just a little bit more of a shape. And that feels like it's pretty good, so we will just move to the next one. And again, make sure that when you're pushing these closed that you are not getting your fingers in the glue. And then I'm just going to push that and get rid of that string. And just hold that there. Just fold that open a little more. Okay, last one. If you wanted to, you could finish with this layer if you wanted to try to make your roses a little bit smaller. Well, yep, see, now we're going to get into both of those petals getting in the way. So I'm really just going to push in the center and then just have it fold open instead. Again, ultimately you just want the base to go against that bud. Yep, so as I was saying, yeah, you can stop here if you want. I really think that the fourth layer kind of adds more to the showiness of it, adds more of those open petals. I think it really adds, it balances it out so that you have, two open layers and two kind of closed layers. But that's what that looks like. So we're gonna, once again, add our glue to the bottom, a little off-sided there. Oh. And then again, just to center it as best as you can. And you might want to start offsetting your flowers so that the cut is in between the two cuts on the previous layer, so that when you're folding your petals up, they're not lining up too much. So it looks like that is exactly what I did on accident. Whoops. That's okay. just, be cognizant of how you're attaching them and what kind of look you'd like to get out of it. And this one's going to be a little bit more open, so I'm just going to, because I forgot to do that before we attach this, if you ever forget to do this, you can always go back and curl your petals afterwards, especially on the layer that you just attached, since currently these petals are not affixed to anything. It'll be just fine. So we're just going to do this real quick and just to curl those edges a little bit, make them look a little bit more natural. And there we go. So with this one, similar to the last one, we only want to get glue on the base of the petal so that when we push it up, it just kind of goes up against the previous layer. This one, I usually just do a line at the bottom, something really small, because I really do not want the glue to show because this is the final layer. So I'm just going to push that up a little bit. And again, we're just holding that center column because it's the strongest point, and I'm just holding that down there, just trying to push that petal up as best as I possibly can. Okay, so that feels pretty good. And in this case, because these petals are not really overlapping each other too much, it's fine if you just go in order around the flower. You're not gonna cause any problems by doing that. So again, we'll just push that in and curl that out. And you just wait for it to dry. Now again, if you wanted to use these for anything other than like a centerpiece, for a table, for a nice dinner, you can probably make these into a bouquet using very thin dowel. If you think ahead, you can probably also get some, oops, let me get that back in camera. Get that back in there, sorry. Get some green paper, you can make some leaves. Really make this look really good. Yeah, so we're just gonna hold that closed, push that open, curl that petal over, move on to the next one. And you're just making a line and being very careful not to get your fingers. Okay, and then again, just curling that open. Okay, and looks like we've only got one more left. Oops, out, and then sometimes that happens. My hand slipped. Okay, well that's fine. Again, just push it in to the point where you just can't see the glue. And if it looks a little different, it looks a little different. That's okay. And nature works in mysterious ways, and sometimes so does my glue gun. So, and that's it. Once all that dries, you just, again, pick off all the little bits that come off the end, and you have a rose. And again, so you can make these in a bunch of different colors and sizes. Again, these buds are only made with 2 layers. Using the exact same instructions that I did, you just stop at layer 2 instead of adding layers 3 and 4. Totally up to you what you want to do. But hope you enjoyed this, and we miss you all. We can't wait to see you once the library is back open again. Thank you.